Hey, everybody, it is my pleasure to announce that I am interviewing a candidate, once again, for Oakland City Council District 1. And as many longtime viewers know, this is something that we've done for quite some years now. I hate to think about how many, but that's another story. I am honored to introduce Stephanie Domínguez Walton, who is running for Oakland City Council District 1 seat. Stephanie, welcome to Zennie 62 on YouTube and Oakland News Now and the Zennie 62 media universe. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Zennie. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, thanks. We're really excited to have you. We are, aside from Oaklanders, we are, in a sense, kindred spirits. She was born in 65. I was born in 62. So there's a lot of commonality there, as we were discussing off camera, but I'm going to get right to it, and this is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot, as you know, a lot of things to talk about in Oakland, and most notably, this starts with the first question here. Tell us about you. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I moved to Oakland almost 15 years ago with my husband and then 10-month-old son. He's now a sophomore in high school. And we've added one more to the brood. I have a daughter who's almost 12. But we moved to Oakland's District 1, and I immediately felt a feeling that I was at home. I've never lived anywhere as long as I lived in Oakland in District 1. I love it for all of its diversity, true diversity. I plan to stay here until my final days. I love the city, and I feel like I've got a lot of love to give to the city, to try to help improve some of the situations that we're living through here now in Oakland, which I'm sure we're going to get to in some of these follow-up questions.
Sure, absolutely.
But I'm a Bay Area native. My parents are from the South Bay, both of them. My father's family came from Oklahoma and Arizona and settled in San Jose in the 40s when my dad and his twin brother were little boys. They worked their way up from nothing to making a wonderful home for my brother and I growing up in the South Bay. And my mom is a third-generation Italian American. My parents come from deep family connections and pride, and a really wonderful ethnic background that I have brought to my current family, my immediate family, with my husband, who is a Berkeley native, and our kids who are growing up in a very rich cultural environment as well. And Oakland is home.
What was the aha moment where you decided, I'm going to run for Oakland City Council District 1?
Right. There was an aha moment, literally an aha moment. And it took place the night of the presidential election, when the presidency was stolen from a woman and given to a racist misogynist. And I knew in that moment that I had to get off the sidelines and into the fight. The following morning, I took my kids to school. My husband and I barely slept. I came home to my husband, who was in deep, deep thought. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No, I'm not okay." And we knew that to be true. We're not okay. And he looked at me and he said, "You have to run for city council in 2020. And I said, "You're damn right I do." Because I believe politics is local. We start making changes here, and that there is a ripple effect. And to quote our brilliant Congresswoman Barbara Lee, so goes Oakland, so goes California, and so goes the rest of the country. And I firmly believe that. And so here I am, all in.
Wow. I'll take 3 first, and then I'll add the other 2 we talk about off camera after that. But this seems to fit in with 2. Dan Kalb is the incumbent. He appears to be endorsement-rich. How can you beat him?
I'm endorsement-rich as well. I have the full-throated endorsement of our Assembly member, Buffy Wicks. I was the first volunteer on her campaign a few years back, and we have developed an amazing working relationship. We are aligned.
I have to say, I've known Buffy for a long time. She's a great person. Go ahead. Yeah.
She is a great person, and she was. I don't know if you know this, so I'll say it for anybody who's watching and listening. She was voted Freshman Assembly Person of the Year in 2019. She's really she's a hardworking woman who comes from humble means. I identify with her, and I am so very proud to have her endorsement. I also have the endorsement of the Carpenters Union, which is coveted and which is something that Dan had in the last election, and I have now. I also have the endorsement of the Teamsters Local 70. I have the endorsement of the Latino Task Force, which I'm very proud to have. And there are more coming down the pike. So I'm endorsement rich as well. He just has more of them. And you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. The incumbent often gets the endorsements of the elected. So he has Mayor Schaaf, he has Rob Bonta, Assemblyman Rob Bonta, he has Senator Nancy Skinner, and he will likely get more, but so am I, and so will I. So I believe that endorsements are great, but I'm going to have the endorsement of the people. I am out meeting with and talking to residents and constituents in District 1 on a daily basis. I've had more coffee in the last 5 months with people who have just reached out to me out of nowhere and said, hey, I hear you're running in District 1 and we would like to see change in the district, and we would like someone to call us back, and we would like someone to hear our concerns and hear what's important to us, and we would like to have a voice at City Hall, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I will be the voice of the constituents in District 1 at City Hall. So how am I going to beat an incumbent who has a lot of endorsements? I'm meeting with people. I'm seeking endorsements of my own, and my path to victory involves knocking on all the doors, raising all the money, which is $143,000, and I'm 60 in. And making sure that I hear what people have to say, and house parties galore, and that starts next week.
Wow. I got to ask you, there's one question that begs to be asked, and that is, since you're talking to people, what are they saying to you? What problems are they talking about with you?
The biggest concern, and without question, is constituents in District 1 say that their current elected is non-responsive. And I've heard that from everybody. And as I said, I have a website, stephforoakland.com, where people can write to me and set up appointments, voice their concerns, ask for feedback, that sort of thing. And overwhelmingly, people say we have a non-responsive counselor in this district. And for, that to me is unacceptable. And it is something that I will be the polar opposite of that. I am incredibly responsive. As I said, the coffee dates, my teeth are going to be a lovely shade of brown by next November 3rd, because I am having coffee with everybody who has a concern, and anybody who wants to meet with me, whether it's a resident, whether it is a merchant, people in other parts of Oakland, because I believe that, yes, while I will represent Oakland's District 1, I have to work with 7 other counselors to make sure that holistically Oakland is being lifted up, and the people of Oakland are being lifted up, and the streets are free from unhoused people. We have to take care of everybody in every corner of this city. I'm just going to be the voice of District 1.
There's been a lot of talk about climate change, and a number of people have discussed their views on how it should be addressed on a local level. And the city has something called the City of Oakland Energy and Climate Action Plan. What's your view on how you believe the City of Oakland should respond to the climate change threat?
It's an existential threat. without question. And, my husband is an environmental lawyer. We've been together for 18 years. It's more than, and, he does his part on a daily basis to make sure that no damage is done to our environment, to our endangered species, to our water supply, to our air, to, the list goes on, right? Mm-hmm. I have 2 children, and I asked my 15-year-old, this is a concern that is on the mind of my 15-year-old and my almost 12-year-old daughter, the environment. And are we taking care of our planet? And are we doing our part locally here in Oakland to make sure that they can have families of their own? My 15-year-old, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to have a family of my own. Is that even going to be an option for me? That's not too far down the road for him. And kids today are staring that in the face. We're staring that in the face. I'm sitting here in my home in Oakland's District 1, a place that, I want to, as I said earlier, I want to spend my last days here. And I would love to be able to have something to pass on to my children and to their children. But is that an option? Oakland, we are thought leaders in this community. We have a very big voice. We are a major metropolitan city in the state of California and in the country. And what we do here has an impact on what cities around us do and what cities in the state of California do. And obviously, we come from one of the most forward-thinking states and areas in the country where climate change is concerned. So, my opponent is an environmentalist, and I applaud him for that, and I am with him in all of his efforts to try to make sure that we leave something behind for our children and for generations that follow. Is there another stance to take?
Well, I'm in Atlanta as we speak, talking for Fayette County, so that's another discussion.
Well, yeah, so goes
it's
Oakland,
fascinating.
so goes California, so goes the rest of the country, excuse me. And we have to maintain that attitude. It is incumbent upon us, with our loud liberal voices, to make sure that they are heard.
Yeah, I want to fit in the two questions I discussed off camera now, and the first one has to do with sports, because a lot of my viewers are A's, Raiders, Warriors, Oakland Roots, Oakland Panthers, the New Oakland Panthers. They're fans. What, open-endedly, I'm going to ask this. We went through a series of gut-wrenching changes starting in 2017 with the NFL approving the Raiders' move to Las Vegas, and then this year with the Warriors not being in Oakland and playing in San Francisco, and losing our sports identity and economic base. What's your position on the future of sports in Oakland? That's very open-ended.
Oh, my God.
See what your thoughts are.
The A's belong in Oakland. The A's belong in Oakland. The lawsuit that the city filed against the county was an absolute gut punch the day before the wild card game that threw all of us here in Oakland for a loop. We should be working together with our county of Alameda to keep the A's in town. I'm glad they came around. I think that was the right thing to do. I believe the current plan that we're looking at with developing the Coliseum site into affordable housing on a BART stop, I think for low income folks in Oakland, I think is a wonderful plan. And I think we need to make sure that that's exactly what happens. I also believe that a ballpark at Howard Terminal with thousands of union jobs, and I think it'd just be amazing and would really be a phenomenal economic engine for the city. I look forward to getting on my bike with my kids and my husband and riding down to that new ballpark and spending a day celebrating one of the greatest baseball teams in the history of baseball. The A's belong in Oakland. When you think of Oakland and when you think of the A's, you think of Oakland. It goes both ways. And it's part of our identity. We can't let them go. We can't. I mean, obviously, it's part of, I think, who we are, whether you're a baseball fan or not. The Oakland A's, come on, that's who they are. And also, I think it would infuse so much into the economy here in Oakland, both through jobs and people would have a new reason to celebrate this a state-of-the-art ballpark in our beloved city. It'd just be great for the city of Oakland all the way around.
Stephanie, I just want to observe it. Just being here almost 3,000 miles away and, sending, I'm actually way ahead in my house payments, but money back there to keep it. But being here, I can literally feel how diminished Oakland's national presence has been, because one is used to hearing, well, the Golden State Warriors at Oracle Arena in Oakland. Oakland is hosting, Oakland is this, Oakland, many times a day in this household alone, which multiplies to several million times a day around the country and around the world. And it just seems to me like we as a city and I don't know, for whatever reason, we don't seem to value the amount of money that we're pouring down the drain in terms of advertising for our city, by just letting them go and having no plan to replace them or do anything. It's and I say tearfully, it is tearfully upsetting to me as a guy who grew up in Oakland since '74, that we just sort of let this happen. I don't know.
It's a travesty. I talked to, I developed a relationship with a merchant in my district. He is a huge, huge baseball fan, a huge Oakland A's fan. And he could quote stats and tell you what happened in this game against this team, to the T. He runs a business in Oakland, and he is a diehard Oakland A's fan. That's just one person who reached out to me. And the opportunity is there for me because I agree with him, and I agree with so many more like him in our city, that the A's belong here. We've lost the Warriors. That's devastating. That was devastating to my family. You know what I mean? Like, we're sports fans. I've grown up a sports fan. I was raised by a diehard 49ers, A's, and Giants fan in my father. I'm a jock myself. My kids love sports. My husband loves sports. We used to be Giant season ticket holders for years when we lived in San Francisco. I think this is part of who we are. And if we lose this, we lose part of our identity as Oaklanders. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not willing to let that go without a fight. Honestly. And I'm loud. So that's my opinion. I believe that these folks who are doing business and whose livelihoods are dependent on, whether or not my friend at the record store sells enough records. And if Oakland is not vibrant and the economy, people are not coming to town to watch our A's play, he's going to suffer. And the restaurant owners that I talk to and the people that I'm assembling to get together to find out what is it that you want from your city councilor, they say keep the A's in town. That's in the top three always. And I'm going to pivot for a second because this is part of the discussion. When I meet with merchants in District 1 and people who do business in District 1, they want to know, how are you going to keep us safe? How are you going to keep my storefront window from being smashed in for the third time this quarter so that the thieves can steal an empty cash box? What are you going to do to make sure that lines of communication with OPD are open? And these are the concerns. These are the people who are doing business in and voting in District 1, and these are their concerns. First of all, I've never been elected to office before, other than, student council, growing up in junior high and high school.
That counts.
I don't have any goals beyond getting elected to this seat. And my approach is, what's the next right thing I can do today for the city of Oakland? I don't care about being elected to a higher office. I don't have my sights set on assembly. I don't have my sights set on the state senate. I'm here to help Oakland thrive and to help people in Oakland who need to be uplifted. I want to uplift them, and I want to work with people in my community to make sure that everybody has a shot at success in this amazing town. And that, that involves keeping the A's here. If I'll go back to the initial question.
Sure. I'm going to shift to the one issue that I think is foremost on everyone's mind, aside from that, and the homeless issue. And that, what's your idea to solve our homeless problem?
So obviously, housing is the key, because that they go hand in hand. That's not going to happen immediately. I think what we need to do immediately is come up with transitional places to relocate people from encampments, to organize safe spaces, possibly public spaces that are currently unused. I think the city needs to take an inventory of public spaces that are not in use currently and prioritize which spaces make the most sense. We need to get services to people in need. I do believe that many of these people are out, a fact and a figure that is something that is at the forefront of this dire situation here, is that in the last 2 years, homelessness in Oakland has increased by 50%, and 50% of those people were displaced from housing in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So we have a housing crisis. We have a housing affordability crisis. There isn't enough affordable housing in Oakland, okay? And people are coming to the city, right?
Yep.
So market rate housing is gone, right? There's a shortage of market rate housing. So people who can afford market rate housing are now going into middle income housing. And you know how that works, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we need affordable housing, okay? Because people of color are being pushed down and out.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
Yep.
Okay, so now we have an abundance of people who are living on the street, or who are unhoused, or who are staying on couches, who are just one step away from being on the street, right?
Right.
So how can we get the folks who are living in encampments into safe spaces? Let's take advantage of some public space, and let's bring services to them so that they can have a shower, a hot shower, and a hot meal. And maybe those who are ready to be, to find work, perhaps some of those jobs can be made available to folks, whether it's working in a transitional housing space or having jobs presented to them. I happen to know that, I volunteer at a Title I school in my district, where the majority of the children who are going to school there are on free and reduced lunch, and now supper as well, which I got reinstated at that school by going to the district and asking for that assistance. There are children whose parents need to know that when their kids are at school, from whether it's 7:30 to 6 p.m. or any number of hours in that window, that they're getting fed and that they're being cared for. Okay, and that's happening now. That's happening at Piedmont Avenue Elementary, where I volunteer. But what I found out, in addition to some of those kids needing basic needs like food and clothing and care from 7:30 to 6 p.m., is a lot of those parents are working 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs, right? And with no health insurance. And sometimes those jobs are outside of Oakland. Maybe one parent is working as a cashier at a Chevron in Concord, and that's one of their jobs. And so what that means in many cases is people right here in Oakland and in Oakland's District 1 folks are working just to cover the basic needs, a roof over their head and possibly food and electricity for their children, right? And getting them to school is often put on someone else because those parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. So the money that those parents are bringing home goes to keeping a roof over their kids' heads, putting food on the table, hopefully, and also maybe paying for childcare. Well, there are union jobs at Safeway stores in my district that are, there are maybe 50 jobs that aren't filled right now, and these parents don't know that they exist. So I'm putting on a job fair at the school, because wouldn't it be amazing if you could go down to 1 job with health insurance that's down the street from your kid's school versus 2 that are completely out of the area? And if you could work a shift potentially that takes place while your kids are at school and in the care of wonderful, devoted teachers and staff, and they're getting their breakfast, lunch, and their dinner, can you imagine what that would do for folks? Just to be able to cross some of those concerns and worries off their list.
Yep.
That's what I'm about. And I think that's what people need and want in Oakland. The big picture is we need to focus on what's happening right here in front of us, right? Mm-hmm. People addressing people's basic needs, and that's happening. There are other concerns as well. Our streets are in disrepair, right? My cousin's wife fell in the street in front of my house where 4 people have now fallen and tripped and hurt themselves. And it's on a city street. I'm just one person. This is a huge concern.
No, it's
all over Oakland, right?
It happened to me. I came back and had a car parked, went to the alley, which is I'm a regular there, favorite place to go since '97, and I was only there for 40 minutes. I wanted to have alley chicken and catch up with folks I hadn't seen in a while. Came out, and the car I'd rented from SFO smashed to the side window, and someone had put the seat down and rummaged through the back thinking there was something was in it. There was nothing in it. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And that, you talk about feeling naked, right? And what got me was, I've seen people post pictures. I made a video in my case, because I vlog, of these incidents happening. But it's one thing to see someone else post a picture, but then for yourself to go through it, you really feel violated. And there's no other way to describe it. And then what's more harrowing is how common it is. How many people say, "Oh yeah, it's like drinking water," And I'm thinking, what is it that we can do to stop this? Because apparently someone told me there's a ring of people that do this. There's some sort of electronic device they have to determine whether or not you have a smartphone in your car or a computer. And I'm thinking, well, that device didn't work in my case because there's nothing there, right? But
right,
I'm saying, yeah, you're absolutely right. It sometimes when I come back, I'm afraid to go out. I never thought I'd say that, but if I do, I drove that time, but I thought I'd rather call Uber or Lyft or something and have them take me rather than park someplace.
Yeah, it's a real concern. My husband and I, both of our cars were broken into on the same night right in front of our home, and they smashed both passenger side windows, and we flipped our lights on, and our dog started barking, and the neighborhood came to life. It was at 2:00 in the morning, but they didn't get anything. Now I don't keep anything of value in my car. You have to. There are precautions that we have to take. This is the reality, right? This is what's happening in Oakland right now. There aren't enough police, and police is that's a very divisive topic, right? There needs to be reform. Yet at the same time, who do we call when we're in trouble, or who do we not call? Because there just aren't enough of them, and we know they're not going to come out. I believe that we've got to figure out a way to make people feel safe, and that involves having a working relationship with police in Oakland, and having more of them be responsive, and then also working on de-escalation. There's so much that's a whole topic in and of itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Police,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, they are there to protect and serve, and if we can't call them and feel safe in our own city, then we need to fix that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are things that we can do in our neighborhoods and in our, when we're out and about in town. Put your seats down in your car. Make it so that the glove box is open, and the center console is open, and that a potential thief can see into the car that there's nothing of value in there for them to take. These are the precautions we have to take right now. If we can install motion sensor floodlights on the front of our homes so that they go off, that is a deterrent. That does work. These are things that we can do right now, because the reality is the police aren't standing there at every moment, waiting for someone to come and try to break into your car.
That's true.
Go to a cafe. You can't sit out at a cafe in anywhere in District 1 with your laptop. Those days are gone. They will get snatched and you will be dragged. This is the reality. People are being hurt. And it's not worth it, but we have to take precaution in the meantime, and then we have to figure out a way to make this work with the police. We've got to see some changes happen here. There aren't enough police on the force.
Just curious. Just curious. Do you have any thoughts on the cannabis business tax adjustment issue there?
I know that is a very, very heated topic. I believe cannabis was interesting to me because I've been sober for almost 20 years. And so for me, I have to take the emotion out of it. Right.
Right.
And at first I resisted, like oh my God, I don't know what side of this, not argument, but this issue I'm going to be on. And I believe this is a way for, cannabis as, whether you want to use it to get high,
mm-hmm.
or whether you want to use it in a medicinal way, which many of us do and have done. It is a business that is good for the city of Oakland, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the taxes, I think in many ways, some of the taxes are making it prohibitive for smaller businesses to thrive,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
that was the whole reason for the idea of down adjusting it. Yeah. I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so some of these, we want to decriminalize it, and we want to give people an opportunity to do business in the city of Oakland. It should be, it can't be prohibitive. How can some of these smaller businesses make any money if they're going to be taxed out of it?
Mm-hmm.
I've got notes upon notes upon notes about how this is structured, but we've got it. It's going to have to get figured out, because we can't. The whole reason, like you said, if we are not going to bring some of these smaller business people up into the cannabis business and an opportunity to thrive in the cannabis business in Oakland, then I think we've sort of missed the point.
Let's get to another question, that pension obligations, because we have this gigantic pension problem that has lasted for a generation and a half in Oakland.
Right.
What's your idea to solve Oakland's pension obligation problem? And for those people who don't know what that is, I just want to, for those people watching who might say, what's that? Basically, when you retire, these are for those of you who are teenagers watching this, or in their 20s or something like that. But the whole point is, and I say that with all seriousness, when you get older and you work for the city of Oakland, you're going to retire. And a lot of people retire with the expectation, rightly so, of being able to generate income that was accrued while they were working for the city of Oakland, in some cases for 30 years. What's going on now, folks, is that as we have more and more retirees, the pension weight on the city of Oakland becomes heavier, in part because of our own revenue collection problems, issues with respect to cost, okay? So, and this has been going on for quite some time. It was easier for us to overcome the problem we had redevelopment. Now it's harder. And so I'm just framing the environment around which this question is put out right now. So, Stephanie, your thoughts?
Yeah. So I don't really have a clear answer to how we satisfy this pension requirement. I mean, the workers deserve their pensions, right? I think the city also doesn't have a clear answer to it, but they are responsible for managing the money. And, some have noted that a ballot measure that's coming up may be a way to free up some of the funds to pay for the pensions. But I haven't really reached a conclusion on that. I'm going to be curious to see what does happen after March, to see if, in fact, some of these ballot measures or the one in particular that I'm thinking of, I think it's number 148, or it's 148, not number 148. The amount is 148 per parcel, and it's for parks and the homelessness problem here. But we'll see.
And as we wind up, and out of respect for your time, first of all, thank you so much, because I'm pretty certain this is going to be the most substantive interview you've done until you come back next time and talk with me, because nobody else does this like we do it here. So and I'll come back anytime. I mean, we got 10 more months before election day. Yeah. Hey,
and we'll see.
Website. What's your website? How can people find you? How can they get behind you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thanks for asking. It's
Sure.
Steph for Oakland, STEPHFOR, Oakland.com. I am working like crazy to hit a fundraising goal of $60,000 by the end of this year, which is 4 days from now. And I'm dangerously close to hitting it. And I've been on the phones all morning long. I would love to meet with anybody in District 1. I want to hear your concerns. I want to hear what you love about Oakland. I want to hear what it is you want from your city councilor, how you want your voice to be heard at City Hall. That's why I'm doing this. I think, we are so strong when we come together. I'm not going to claim to be all things to all people. That's just not possible. But I do want to hear what everyone has to say. And I think this is how we move forward. I think this is how we begin to fix some of the issues that face our city. I'm a collaborator. I am a team player. I've been, a business person for over 30 years, working in sales and marketing, and working toward always a common goal. That's always been my purpose as a professional is, what is my client need? What are my client goals? How can I help them get there? How can we work together to achieve? And I think that's what we need. I think, a city councilor cannot be an island, right? A city councilor cannot not respond to his or her constituents' questions, needs, and concerns. And when we work together towards a common goal, we achieve it. That's it.
Well said. Folks, this is going to be on Zennie 62 on YouTube as a standalone YouTube video within seconds. It will be automatically on oaklandnewsnow.com and 16 other blogs in the Zennie 62 network within approximately 15 minutes. And then from there, it will automatically go to News App, Smart App, and every other news aggregator that's out there. It is also auto-transcribed. So thank you. Stephanie, stick around. But thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. And hey, share it. It's also podcastable. Thanks, everybody. See ya. And thank you. You got it.